My grandma is pregnant at 60, but she doesn't know who is responsible. Please stay with me as I tell you my story. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, for your support means a lot to us. Back to my story. The table was set for Christmas dinner. Laughter echoed in the room as cousins fought over who got the biggest slice of turkey. It was supposed to be an ordinary night, warm, cozy, safe. But my grandmother's voice silenced us all. She cleared her throat, her wrinkled hands clutching a folded piece of paper. I have something to tell you, she said, her voice trembling yet firm. We all turned, expecting some sentimental holiday speech. Instead, her words shattered the night. I'm pregnant. The room erupted in disbelief. Forks clattered against plates. My uncle nearly choked on his drink. My mother whispered, "That's impossible." My cousins laughed nervously, thinking it was some sick joke. But Grandma's face was deadly serious. "You can't be serious," my father muttered, staring at her as if she had lost her mind. Without a word, she unfolded the paper and slid it across the table. It was a medical report. Black and white, undeniable. Positive. The laughter died. The air grew heavy. No one spoke for several seconds, just the ticking of the old grandfather clock filling the silence. Finally, my aunt snapped, "Who's the father?" Her voice was sharp, almost accusing. Grandma looked down at her plate, refusing to meet our eyes. That single silence spoke louder than words. I felt a chill run down my spine. The idea of my grandmother, 60 years old, carrying a child, it was unthinkable. But the evidence was right there. And yet, it wasn't just the pregnancy that shocked me. It was her refusal to answer. That silence hinted at something darker, something she wasn't ready to reveal. And in that moment, I knew, our family would never be the same again. The room exploded after a few seconds of stunned silence. "This is ridiculous," my uncle shouted, slamming his fist on the table. "You're 60 years old, mother. 60. Women your age don't get pregnant." But Grandma didn't flinch. She sat straight, her hands folded calmly in her lap. "And yet," she said quietly, "I am." My mother shook her head, her eyes wide with fear. No, this must be some mistake. Maybe it's a tumor, or the doctor misread the results." But the paper sat in front of us, undeniable, glaring at us like a cruel joke. My cousins exchanged horrified glances. One whispered, "What if it's true?" The argument started almost immediately. Half the family clung to denial, refusing to accept it. They threw out theories, excuses, anything to protect themselves from the truth. The other half sat in silence, too shocked to speak, too afraid to ask the obvious question: who was responsible? "I won't allow this embarrassment." My uncle spat, his face red with anger. "If word gets out, do you know what people will say about us? About you?" But Grandma only sighed, her eyes fixed on the flickering candles in the center of the table. "The truth doesn't care what people say," she murmured. Her calmness was unsettling. It made the rest of us even more uneasy. And then she said something that chilled me to the bone. "This child is a blessing," she whispered, almost to herself. "Even if none of you understand." For the first time, I noticed the way her hands rested on her stomach. Protective. Tender. The room fell silent again. Denial was no longer enough. We needed answers. And deep down, I feared those answers would destroy us all. By the next morning, the secret wasn't a secret anymore. News in our family traveled faster than wildfire. And by Sunday service, everyone in the community was whispering about my grandmother. I could feel the stares burning into my back as we walked into church. Old women clutched their rosaries tighter, muttering prayers under their breath. The younger ones snickered behind cupped hands. Some called it a miracle. Others whispered the word curse. At the grocery store, I overheard two women near the produce aisle. "They say she's 6 months along," one said. "No," the other gasped, "that's impossible. Must be witchcraft." By Monday, neighbors started dropping by the house under the guise of checking in. Their eyes darted around, searching for proof. Some offered fake smiles, others couldn't hide their disgust. Inside the family, tension only grew. My uncle refused to speak to Grandma at all. My mother locked herself in her room, embarrassed and ashamed. But me, I couldn't stop thinking. If this was real, if she was truly pregnant, then someone had to be responsible. Someone close. That night, as I passed by Grandma's room, I heard her whispering on the phone. Her voice was low, urgent. Yes, I'm fine, she said. No, they don't know. I haven't told them it's you. My heart nearly stopped. She hasn't told them it's you. I pressed my ear closer to the door. But the conversation ended abruptly. When I peeked through the crack, I saw her clutching her belly, tears running down her face. Who was she talking to? The rumors outside were already cruel. But the truth, I feared, was far darker than anyone dared imagine. The tension in the house became unbearable. Meals were eaten in silence, and no one dared mention the pregnancy out loud. But the whispers outside kept growing louder. And soon, even we couldn't escape them. I decided I needed to know the truth. If Grandma wasn't going to reveal the father, then I would find out myself. I started with her room. Late one evening, when she had gone to bed early, I crept inside. The air smelled faintly of lavender and old books. Her dresser drawers were neatly arranged, but hidden at the back of the bottom drawer, I found something strange: letters. Dozens of them, neatly folded, bound with a faded red ribbon. My hands trembled as I opened one. The handwriting wasn't familiar. The words were intimate, almost desperate. You make me feel alive again. They wouldn't understand us, but I don't care. I need you. I stuffed the letters back quickly when I heard her footsteps in the hallway. My heart pounded as I slipped out unseen. The next day, I began watching her closely. Twice, I caught her leaving the house at odd hours, long after dinner. Once, she slipped into a car that waited with its headlights off. The driver was a man, too young to be her peer, but too old to be a casual acquaintance. Do you know who that is? I whispered to my cousin when I pointed him out through the curtains. She shook her head, pale. I've never seen him before, but I knew I had. His face stirred a memory I couldn't quite place. That night, I wrote down everything I had seen. One thing was certain: whoever he wasn't just a friend. And if he was the father, our family was headed for disaster. The man in the car haunted me. I couldn't shake his face from my mind. I had seen him before, but where? Days passed, and each night Grandma disappeared. He was there, waiting. One evening, I followed her. Careful. A few steps behind, keeping to the shadows. She climbed into his car, and they drove toward the edge of town. My chest tightened as I trailed them on foot, afraid to lose them. They finally stopped at a small motel, one that reeked of secrecy. From the shadows, I saw him step out of the car. He wasn't old, maybe in his mid-30s, tall with sharp features. Too young to be her peer. Far too young. My heart pounded. Could this man truly be the father of my grandmother's child? I went home shaken, my mind racing. Who was he? Why would a man like that be with her? The next day, I casually asked around at the market, describing him. An old shopkeeper frowned. That sounds like Daniel, she said slowly. He used to work at the clinic before he was dismissed. They say he crossed boundaries with patients. My blood ran cold. A disgraced former medical worker. My grandmother sneaking around with him. That night at dinner, I couldn't keep it in any longer. Who is Daniel? I asked suddenly, my eyes fixed on Grandma. Her spoon froze midair. The entire room went silent. My uncle's head snapped up. My mother's eyes widened. Grandma didn't answer. But the look on her face, the shock, the fear, was enough. For the first time, I realized the truth might be worse than rumors. And if Daniel was involved, then we weren't dealing with a scandal. We were dealing with danger. I couldn't sleep that night. Daniel's name echoed in my mind, twisting and turning until I felt sick. The way Grandma froze at the table told me everything. She knew him. And she was hiding something far bigger than any of us imagined. The next morning, I returned to her room. This time, I searched deeper. Beneath the bed, tucked away in a worn shoebox, I found it, a diary. The leather cover was cracked with age, its pages yellowed. Hands trembling, I opened it. The entries dated back decades. At first, they were innocent, reflections about raising her children, her struggles after Grandpa died. But as I flipped forward, the tone changed. One entry caught my breath. He makes me feel young again. But if anyone knew, they would never forgive me. I must keep this secret forever. My throat tightened. The he she spoke of wasn't named, but the passion in her words was undeniable. I read further, and the entries grew darker. I can't tell the children. They would hate me. They must never know the truth about him, or what we've done. The last entry, written just weeks ago, chilled me to my core. He's back. After all these years, he's returned. And now, I carry his child. My hands shook so violently the diary nearly slipped from my fingers. This wasn't just a fling. This was a secret spanning decades, an old lover resurfacing, entangling her in something dangerous and forbidden. I snapped the diary shut, heart pounding. Questions screamed in my head. Who was he? Was it Daniel? Or someone even closer, hidden in plain sight all along? One thing was clear. Grandma's past hadn't stayed buried. It had come back. And now, it lived inside her. The diary burned in my pocket as I sat at the dinner table that evening, unable to look at Grandma without hearing her words echoing in my mind. She laughed softly at something my aunt said, but I could see it, the guilt in her eyes, the heaviness in her smile. I thought I was the only one carrying this secret. I was wrong. Halfway through the meal, my uncle slammed his fork down, the clatter making everyone jump. Enough of this pretending, he snapped. His voice shook with anger, but his hands trembled with something else. Fear. Do you think we don't know? He hissed, his eyes narrowing at Grandma. Do you think you fooled us all these years? The room froze. My chest tightened. What did he mean? My mother's face went pale. Don't, she whispered, her voice breaking. But my uncle didn't stop. He turned to the rest of us. She isn't innocent. She's been lying to us for decades. And I've known all along. The words hit me like a blow. You knew. I stammered. He nodded bitterly. Yes. I knew about him. I knew he came back. I knew she was seeing him again. His fists clenched, knuckles white. But I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't think she'd. His voice trailed off. But the implication was clear. Grandma's eyes filled with tears. I never wanted to hurt any of you, she whispered. I thought I could keep it separate. I thought. Her words broke off, drowned by the storm of accusations that erupted around the table. But my mind was spinning too fast to hear them. If my uncle had known all along, then what else was the family hiding from me? The shouting match at the table ended with one solution: proof. If Grandma was truly pregnant, if this child carried the blood of a stranger, then science would settle it. We'll do a DNA test, my aunt declared, her voice sharp with finality. No more secrets. No more lies. For once, everyone agreed. Even Grandma, though her eyes shimmered with unease, simply nodded. The next morning, we drove her to a private clinic. She didn't say a word the whole ride, her hands resting protectively over her stomach. I couldn't tell if it was love or fear. The test was done quickly. Blood samples, paperwork, signatures. The doctor promised results within 48 hours. But those 2 days felt like years. No one spoke freely in the house anymore. Every glance carried suspicion. Every silence felt like betrayal. I lay awake at night, wondering if Daniel's face would stare back at me from the results, or if the truth was even darker. Finally, the call came. The results were ready for pickup. My uncle and I drove to the clinic, tension thick between us. He collected the sealed envelope, gripping it like it contained dynamite. We brought it home, the entire family gathering in the living room. The envelope lay on the table, untouched. No one dared open it. Finally, my uncle tore it open. But the envelope was empty. Gasps filled the room. My aunt shouted, "Where are the papers?" My uncle's face twisted with rage. Someone took them. Grandma sat in her chair, calm as stone. Too calm. And in that chilling silence, I realized something terrifying. The truth wasn't missing. Someone had made sure we would never see it. The empty envelope sat on the table like a curse. Everyone argued, voices overlapping, accusations flying. But Grandma remained unervingly silent, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her gaze fixed on the flickering light of the lamp. Who would steal the results? My aunt screamed. Ask her, my uncle snapped, pointing at Grandma. She's the one with something to hide. But Grandma didn't flinch. Her silence was worse than denial, it was consent. That night, I couldn't stand it anymore. I crept back into her room, searching again. This time, I looked behind the wardrobe, under the mattress, inside the lining of her suitcase. And then, tucked into the pocket of her coat. I found it, crumpled papers, stained with sweat. The DNA test. My hands shook as I read the words. The father wasn't Daniel. It wasn't some stranger from her past. It was someone far closer. Someone inside this house. The air left my lungs. My vision blurred. The name on the page burned into my mind like fire. I stumbled back, the paper slipping from my hands. Grandma's voice cut through the darkness. She was standing in the doorway, her face shadowed. You weren't supposed to see that, she whispered. My throat closed. Why didn't you tell us? Her eyes glistened with tears. Because the truth would destroy this family. I wanted to shout, to demand answers. But the weight of that paper silenced me. I knew she was right. If I spoke, everything we thought we knew about our family would collapse. I hid the results in my pocket and left her standing there. But even as I walked away, one thought echoed in my mind. This family was already destroyed. The house was silent the next morning, but not with peace. It was the silence of fear, of everyone waiting for someone else to speak first. I still had the DNA papers in my pocket, the truth burning a hole against my skin. Finally, Grandma shuffled into the room. She looked smaller than I had ever seen her, as if the weight of her secret had aged her in a single night. She sat in her chair, eyes scanning each of us slowly. You all want the truth, she began, her voice low but steady. Fine. You will have it. No one moved. The child I carry, it is not from Daniel, she said, her gaze dropping. It is not from a stranger. It is from, she hesitated, and in that pause, I swear the air itself grew sharp. Your uncle. Gasps ripped through the room. My aunt's hand flew to her mouth. My uncle staggered back, his face pale as chalk. No, she's lying, he stammered. But his trembling hands betrayed him. Grandma's tears spilled freely now. He came to me one night. I was weak. I should have stopped it. But I didn't. And now, at 60 years old, I am carrying his child. The room erupted. Shouts, curses, sobs. My aunt clawed at my uncle's shirt, screaming betrayal. My mother sank to the floor, whispering prayers that sounded more like curses. And me? I stood frozen, the DNA results crumpled in my hand. The truth was out. The family would never recover. Grandma rose slowly, her face streaked with tears. I told you, she said, her voice breaking. The truth destroys. Then she left the room, leaving us in the ruins of a family we thought we knew. The silence that followed was worse than any scream. And that's where our story ends, for now. Grandma's shocking confession has left the family in pieces. But the question is, what happens next? Will the child be born? Will the family ever recover? Or will more secrets come to light? If this were you, what would you do? Would you forgive, walk away, or expose everything to the world? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for part 2 of this unbelievable story.